We're just south of it.
Okay.
South of Travis.
Are you ready? Okay, we have already established a quorum or an open session. So at this point, I need a motion for approval of the agenda, please.
So moved.
All in favor? Thank you. Could I have a motion for approval of the consent agenda items?
Second.
All in favor? Communications.
Yes, we received this nice poster from the Childhood Development Center. Handprints and staff signatures on it. Appreciate this.
That's awesome.
It is awesome.
We also received a card from MSBA, President Young and Superintendent Odinger. The School Board Association sincerely thanks you for your membership renewal for 2023-2024. Membership in the association speaks strongly about your commitment to the students in your district, as well as to public education in Missouri and the nation. As a member of the single largest association of publicly elected officials in Missouri, your active involvement in MSBA will ensure a bright future for public education. The MSBA staff is especially proud to serve you and your district. Sincerely, President and Executive Director of MSBA.
Thank you. Our public comment.
Yeah, there were no requests submitted for public comment.
Okay. Next up, we have our financial report. Standard Cat.
Evening, everybody.
Good evening.
I just have a quick update for the finance department for today. The ASBR has been submitted to DESI, and right now for the 2022 bond project, as of the end of August, we have spent $6,136,370.47 on completed and paid invoices. And that leaves us with a current balance of $1,097,197.98. The on-site audit has been completed, and we are working through the final requests and tasks with the auditors. 5 auditors were on site for 1 day. We are working together to finish the final pieces. We plan on the auditors returning to Odessa to present to the board in November.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we are for making a difference. We're here to recognize somebody special in our district.
Yeah, and he wasn't able to make it tonight, but I want to acknowledge our custodian at the Quarry, Norman Hicklin. Does a great job down there. He was nominated by several staff members, and I'll just read a few of the things that they said about him. Norman shows great leadership and work ethic to get the building ready for the school year. He builds relationships with students, learning their names and encouraging them at all times. He's always friendly and very helpful with anything that the staff needs. And with that, we did present that to him late last week, in front of the staff and some of the students, because it was after school. So it was pretty neat to see that, and I just want to thank him for everything that he does.
Is he one of our day janitors?
Yes, he's the day custodian down there.
Okay, thank you. Next up is our superintendent's report.
Yeah, just a couple things. The building reports were in your board document for review. At this point, we've kind of got our enrollment settled. We will, we'll start the comparison next month. I'm going to give you a cohort comparison so you can see kind of what we're looking at and how the district enrollment has trended over the last several years. We do a membership count the last day in September that is reported to DESI, so it'll be that number that we use that I provide to you. And then I wanted to make sure everyone is aware we are hosting Special Olympics again this year, October 4th. It's a Wednesday at Bulldog Stadium.
Okay, thank you.
What time's that start?
9 maybe?
Okay.
I'll find out.
I'll double check. Is Haley running track?
Do what?
Haley, she the
just figured,
Oh, no, it's a bit different.
but that's okay, I can find out,
They need volunteers.
probably.
We always take.
Yeah. It's awesome. Okay. Next up on our discussion items is our construction update. Come on down.
Yeah. Good evening. So obviously we're September 12th. I'm still here giving reports. It's a little frustrating. Hopefully, we were able to get school started and operating. We would have liked to been completely wrapped up by now with Excel constructors and the contractor on all the work we do. So there's been a big kind of Excel file exchanging hands with Dr. Fagan and Dr. Oettinger, IDS and Excel as well, to kind of wrap up what these kind of remaining punch list items are. The two biggest things, there's the security glazing still needs to get installed. We unfortunately don't have a great answer on when that's going to be installed. We've been asking Excel, and there's a lot of, our hands are tied a little bit with the subcontractor. They kind of a little bit on a whim doing things. They'll say they're going to do things and then they show up early or late, and it's just kind of a free-for-all. So that's been a frustrating to try to get that finalized and get that safety glazing in. And then kind of the other bigger item is there's some VCT. The flooring did get installed, but especially at the middle school, there's some installation that we probably would have liked a better job done. So there's conversations that have already been started and plans marked up where we would like items either replaced or working with the district on what that possible solution is. We've been trying to get a face-to-face. We finally have a meeting scheduled for actually Thursday morning. With everybody will be together and kind of walking through the spaces and what's our plan going forward. We need to get these items wrapped up. It's got to be done. Yes, school is operating, but that does not mean the project is complete. So I want you all to know that we're not going away. We're trying to hold Excel's feet to the fire and make sure this project gets wrapped up and finalized as well. But there are a lot of little miscellaneous odd and end jobs too that we've been tracking and working with Dr. Fagan and Dr. Oettinger as well to keep a log of all those items and get them sent off to Excel. And that's kind of where this chart comes in. And then there's more punch list and imagery that goes with all of that as well. So hopefully, a month from now, hopefully it doesn't even take a month from now, but we've got all these odds and ends wrapped up and we can kind of officially close the book on this project. But
We're going to try to hit this punch list where it doesn't affect our kids and our teachers.
That's what I was
Yes.
asking about how disruptive.
They've been punch listing things throughout this.
they've been working nights and weekends, outside of school hours to try to get all that
Yeah.
picked up.
So it won't be real disruptive to
Correct.
kids or
Yep.
teachers.
Yep. Excel's very aware of that fact that it needs to be done outside of school hours.
Do you guys hold retainage then?
Yes, yep, that's still been held. None of the final applications and all that stuff are still being held and have not been finalized yet. And we'll continue to do so until we get this wrapped up. So,
Okay, any questions? Thank you.
Coming in.
Everything's looking really good.
Yep.
yeah, it does look good. Looks really nice. So, just need to get those, the I's dotted and the T's crossed, basically.
Right.
So,
Appreciate it.
thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have our transportation update.
Dr. Fagan.
So the year started off, of course, first couple of days, always interesting, car rider lines, bus routes, kindergartners maybe or maybe not in the right place because they're not sure how to do that yet. But after those first few days, everything's been going pretty well. We obviously do have more students per bus, which after the heat died down has proved not to be a bad thing with less routes. So the doubling that has had to happen, because it has had to happen a few times, just because of driver shortages still. It's been better because kids have not been extended as long. So we've been able to run that town route home, do the full town route, come right back for a country route, bus full of kids, and then get them on home. So it was more like a 20 minutes they wait at the school and then they're on their way, as opposed to putting two full routes of kids on the same bus and they're extended 30 or 45 minutes. So it has been better. There's still actively looking for drivers. We got 16 full-time drivers, 21 routes, so short 5, but that does include some van routes to some outside agencies that they've been able to accommodate with what we have. 11 monitors currently full-time employed, 3 in the hiring process, 3 more interviews this week, so that's looking very hopeful on that. 1 driver in training with a test date pending, 3 others in permit training, and they do have 6 subs. The reason with that many subs, but still combining, is those subs all have other full-time jobs, so it's kind of hit and miss on
Whether
their
they're
availability. So overall, as far as getting kids here and home, it's been okay, other than we've had 6 or 8 days, which I say isn't bad, but that's been half our days too, that we've had to do some kind of juggling. But like I said, overall the juggles have been less negative impact on the kids than they were last year.
So potentially we could have 4 more drivers soon? Is that what I,
Yeah, 3 in permit training and one just ready to take the test. So yeah, that would be huge. Even just a couple more would be huge. Just
How long
for
does the
daily.
permit train take?
I don't know anymore. I know that process is way different now than it was even 5 years ago.
Yeah.
The CDL and the bus driver training. But I don't know the exact time.
Not quick.
That's good, they've got some in the queue though, I mean, that's.
More than 3 we do.
I think our community's done a good job of working with us on this deal. They really do. Yeah, they're being very patient with us.
Can you speak to the flow at the middle school with the new bus loop? Are we seeing, sounds like we're seeing some improved times there.
I think it's been great. Listen, Lizzie will tell you that's been the greatest addition of anything in their building, having the buses and the cars separate. So it's nice when they pull in. The morning's totally different because they don't come in all at the same time. So the morning drop off, it's still better because the cars and buses are separate, but at every building. But where we see the biggest change is in the afternoon because they're all there at the same time. So when they pull in the afternoon, the buses are they're not stacked up on 5th Street like they were before. The cars are in the athletic complex, so nobody's stacked up out on the street, other than Macquarie, it's still 4th Street. But so all those buses pull in front of the middle school are able to load. We load 7,
6 or 7.
6 or 7 there, and then they load, pull on up to Macquarie as that second group's coming in, loads at the middle school as they're pulling out. The next 7 pull up. It's not quite as seamless as I just made it sound, but
I've been through
But
it,
it's
it
getting there.
works pretty good.
it's getting a lot better than day 1 was difficult, but
Is our queue at, are we still doing 3 only, loading at elementary, Macquarie, or is he up that?
out front.
With that queue length
I don't know exactly how many cars are
up front.
I don't know how
There
many,
we have more
he started out doing just 4, but we were able to stack a lot more. But I don't know how many specifically he's loading now.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
And that's
are you
just
talking for buses or for cars?
cars,
You're talking
so as
cars.
cars come up, we've got more room for them to queue up now,
Yeah.
pick up at one time. One time I thought Daniel was loading 3 or 4, it sounded like, and the talks of maybe increasing that, depending on what he's comfortable with.
We'll find out though. Cause we started with less than we're capable of for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Is that reasonable? Do we have about the same length of backup on 4th Street?
I haven't been down there the last few days when really our attention on that was the first few days, and it was, to the fire station.
Wow.
The first
It clears out quick though.
Part of that was being the first couple of days of school, part of it was so hot too, because parents just, I talked to several people in car rider line upper, and they're like, I just don't want my kid on the bus, it's just so hot, so. Those lines have died down. I know upper in the morning the flow is kind of normal, we'll call it now, even though it's a long line, it still doesn't take 5 minutes to get in and out, even as long as the lines are, so.
Have we had any behavioral issues on the buses with the increased number of
We've had a
students?
few, I wouldn't say, I don't think more than normal, like 3 infractions at upper, 1 middle school student, a couple of Aquarian students, school, so not a tremendous amount. The monitors help, and when they get them on all the buses, that'll help even more. We've had a conversation with them several times, and then management out there, the monitors again of making sure they're moved back in the bus and not at the front, amongst. And that has gotten better. It's not 100% yet, but that's definitely gotten better, which I think has helped that too. Because even with more students on, the ones that really have the heavy loads are off so quick. Not that they don't have time to cause mischief, but it's a lot less time, so they're not on that long. Helps.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, next we have in discussion items 2023-24 Board of Education and Superintendent Goals Update. And Brad, if you would just speak to that.
Absolutely. Had conversations with Brian Cole, Doctors Odinger and Fagan. Currently, between the school district, the superintendent, and the Board of Education, there are 3 different goal documents. And the idea is to, really, when you talk about a comprehensive school improvement plan, the CSIP, that is a guiding document that's built with input from community, including the parents, students, teachers, administration, Board of Education. And that should be the nucleus of, where our goals begin, and any evaluation of successful completion of those goals. So I've been asked to take those 3 documents, essentially concentrate them into a single document with an addendum, and make sure that between the board's goals, our goals for the superintendent, and the district's CSIP plan, that everything aligns. So thank you, Janet, very much for getting me those documents electronically. I believe we have the intentions of having a meeting within the next 2 weeks. And at that point, I'll be able to put that information in front of you. Brian Cole will have it in advance just to make sure that it's what they're looking for as far as our board leadership. And then we'll move forward. Kind of thought I'd done my last CSIP board goal revision. But I enjoy it. It's good nerd stuff. I like it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you doing it, especially with your
Yeah.
previous experience.
Sure.
I think it's vital that we have someone that's
It-
knowledgeable and well versed. So
It
it takes time.
It is important, we asked Brad to do this, but it's important when we set these goals that we have ways through the school year that we are meeting our goals.
Thank you.
And
I forgot to mention that.
well, I know, but that wasn't in there, in our documents that we have. So that's what, we're gonna get together and work together on trying to figure out a way to set our goals and have a way to check and make sure we're meeting our goals.
So included in there, thank you, Brian, for that, is a benchmarking opportunity in, in November, in January, in April, so that we're not all of a sudden through a school year and we're doing an autopsy on our goals, right? And that we can have that communication with Dr. O and Dr. Fagan. It's almost like, in any kind of athletic event, we make halftime adjustments, right? Well, we're gonna be able to have those discussions.
And essentially, we're doing what we're asking our teachers and administrators to do,
Exactly right.
is
That's right.
take data, look at how things are going, and if it's not working, then let's try to fix it. So, I think that that's a good direction for us to be headed.
Thank you. Okay, next up on our discussion items is our district bonding capacity.
Yeah, as we start to look at the possibility of an additional bond issue in the future for facility improvements, I had LJ Hart run the numbers, provided them for you in your board packet for the district to look at and consider, you know, when is a good time to look at that, what window the board would like to look at running a bond issue. I will say that these numbers are based off of a conservative growth of 1%, but that's pretty standard of what the financial world what they look at. We have seen a little better growth than that in the last couple of years, but you know, if we were to look at, just as an example, if we were to look at a April 24, you could bond a bond issue for just over $12 million, 12.2. Looking at April 25, a year later, you'd be looking at just over $14 million. And the difference is because we would have paid down some of the bonding capacity that we're at between now and next year, between April of 24 and 25. And those numbers go up based upon paying down current bonds.
Historically speaking, how frequently have we had bonds on the ballot?
So we did one last year, the previous would have been 7 years prior.
6 or 7, it's like in 17, I think, spring of 17.
So 6 years. Well, I guess we did it in 22, so it would have been 5 years prior. If we'd have done it in 17.
But doesn't that typically have to do with the ability to leverage indebtedness? I
It
mean,
has to do with the need and,
sure.
you know, what your capacity is to fill that need.
So there's a state statute that limits your, and help me with, it's been a minute, you can, it's 20%?
15% of your assessment.
Thank you, 15% of your assessed valuation. Your bonded indebtedness is capped at that level. So that's what, I mean, typically, when Dr. O talks about 12 million next year, 14 million the following year, that's hitting that 15%.
Any other questions? Okay, next up are discussion items of the Board of Education manual.
Yeah, this is the final piece of the transition from the previous policies to the Ed Council Guide Services that we approved back late last spring. This manual is comprised of the procedures and processes that support the policies that were approved and put in place starting with July 1. This is a first reading, give you an opportunity to look through their review, ask any questions. If there are none, I will bring it back as a approval next month.
Okay, hear none. Okay, next up are discussion items, additional multi-purpose facility.
Yeah, in your board packet is a cost estimate for discussion of considering an additional multi-purpose facility. Potentially here at the high school is where we identified a spot. The location would be back where the old trailers that we surplused and moved out a couple years ago. This would provide the convenience of the utilities being right there, not having to pull utilities from some other place to a different location because they're all right there as needed.
I would still like to see us connect this to our hallway, so there is access from the inside of the building to it. Yeah, I think if we're gonna do this, which I think we should, I think it needs to be accessible from the inside.
I also think we need to hook into the locker rooms. They're right there.
There's a boys and girls down there.
Yes.
Backs up.
Yes.
I mean, as well as, I mean, I know HVAC and some of that stuff wasn't necessarily a part of this, but I think we should definitely do, make sure that's all covered.
I think it's
Couple
spaces
window
that,
units.
Yeah.
there's a lot of different clubs and extracurriculars that could use the space for that.
Absolutely.
There would be a multitude of students that would see you eventually.
I think this is a opportunity, you know, that we received a donation from the Oliphant Foundation, toward this. So I think it's an opportunity that we can reach a lot of our kids, and the community, not just our school kids, but all our kids. So,
We can't have too much room of indoor
we're out of space.
Yeah, we need
We're out of space right
additional
now.
indoor space.
Yes. My only questions, is that big enough?
What are we talking about for usage? Volleyball courts, basketball courts, batting cage drops down, mats, the girls wrestling.
Exactly.
Are we talking about having seating, any kind of bleachers? I know whenever we have wrestling right now in the old cafeteria, it's all seats that we just pull in.
Right.
We're gonna have some roll out bleachers. What do we want this to be?
It's a good point.
I think if anything, it should be designed where we can have that in the future, but I mean, in the short term, I think it's just a usable practice space. Or whatever, gym space for PE or
Maybe
whatever.
when it rains, if during basketball, both gyms are.
But I mean, I look at the necessities, we gotta have lights, we gotta have electricity, we gotta have heating and cooling, we gotta have accessibility. Those are the
All the
things that we
mechanical.
have to
If you
have
connect to
money
the
now.
bathrooms though, then that automatically like takes care of all that.
But I would agree while we're building it, it would be nice to put a small section of bleachers in there. You know, even if we had a little small volleyball tournament for some of our younger kids
I mean,
out
something
here,
similar
somewhere
to upper elementary, you know, just.
I know even those gyms like at Lee Summit West, when you go there, they have those auxiliary gyms,
Yeah.
also their big main gym, and they have a row of like 3 bleachers. And
Yes,
that's it.
exactly.
I mean, it's similar to what's at the upper.
Yes, exactly.
Just so that-
I guess my question, I don't
It's
know.
80 by
Sorry.
100.
Yeah, that's my question, is it big enough?
When you start adding in things like seating, probably not.
The only direction we can go is south though, isn't it?
Well, and there's some space to go south before you get to the road, you know, that access drive. We currently run buses on that access drive in the morning and afternoon, so I hate to lose that.
If you were to flip that, where the 80 feet was east to west, would that gain us much more room by going north to south?
Well, I don't know how much, I mean, you could go south right now, leave it the same width and go south.
I just know with that turn there, I don't know if that's gonna create a blind corner for traffic.
It's also gonna change too, you start adding bleachers, and doing those, I mean, this could go
Well, I
pretty
agree.
expensive.
Yeah, no,
Well,
I,
that's, I think that's
But if
why
you
it's
do it
important,
right.
I think that's why it's important though, I mean, what are the necessities right now? That's Electrical-
Don't size it for what you need.
size it for futures,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
provide what we need just to get into it for now. But, I mean, I think it's a great thing that the Oliver Foundation's given us the money to do this. And it's definitely a good, something to
well, it's
jump into.
it's a need.
Take advantage of.
Absolutely, we're sending, we're doing everything, we're out of space with this type of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I know when it rains or thunderstorms, I mean, when there's practice after school, I mean, in the fall, you're competing with
Yeah.
soccer,
You
you
got
got indoor stuff, you got
Bad weather,
softball.
you got flags over here, cheer over there, I mean, yeah,
Golf was in the commons yesterday.
yeah,
You can't have too much indoor
No, sir.
practice space.
What is the size of our gym now? What's the size of our basketball gym? Does anybody,
Oh,
just
no.
off the top of your head, do you have any idea?
Searching probably Google how big is it.
Like compared to upper elementary, is that?
I can tell you the diameter of the circle. on the
This would
map.
probably be
Talks about
close to that,
Think
because
about
I think the
soccer
basketball
field.
court is 94 feet long.
Yeah, 94 by 50 is the basketball court.
Okay,
So this would be,
Basically a gym with the bleachers, it kind of gets you hanging.
this would be comparable to that upper gym
Okay.
as it is right there.
Yeah, because I think the basketball court over there is a little undersized.
Could be. Probably
not
is.
bad.
It's not regulations. Also, most people
Nail
don't
that
know
down,
Yeah,
just agree,
It's kind of like the old gym.
lay out what we think it's gonna be and then move forward.
I think so too, Nicole.
We'll do a little more work to it and bring it back to you.
Schedule wise, when are we thinking we would? Set this up next year or?
Possibly, yeah. I mean, it's gonna depend on what it ends up looking like and what we anticipate cost to be too. That's gotta be a factor in there.
Do we have a list of contractors that we're kind of already thinking about contacting?
No, but
People we've worked with previously or?
we could do that.
Obviously, the sooner you put bids out, the better you guys know.
Try to get something a little more nailed down to bring back to us so we can look at it.
That's great.
I do.
Yeah, yeah, it'd be nice to talk to Sherry and make sure that,
She's getting input
Yeah.
from her coaches, so I let you. So we can be completely missing something.
Yeah, then they want to go just like maybe 110 or 105 since the court's 94 for these rules.
On the ends for sure.
I think we got the room to go that way, don't we? A little bit.
We got a little bit of room to go each way.
Okay.
But that input, obviously from them, they would know, like, it'd be nice to have at least, this feet outside,
Right. That's how the court is.
even the band. They
Yeah.
like,
Right.
they may know what they need to practice, and they say, well, 106 or something, they may know exactly what they need, travel, or the flag.
Right.
Good stuff.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, thank you. Up next is our action items. The first one is our enhancement grant.
Yeah, last February, the board approved the submittal of enhancement grant for vocational equipment. The state the state reimburses up to 75% of purchase price. This year, the amount came in at 52.5% because there was a large number of requests from across the state. That's happened before, not every year. A lot of years they do get to 75%, but this year there was more requests. Based on the original anticipated cost, the information that you were given in your board packet was about $13,500 is what the district would pay for the equipment. With the reduction in the reimbursement, we're looking at a district cost of just over $28,000. So before we move forward, I wanted to bring this back to the board for their final approval. We can incorporate this into the budget and still provide the equipment that was approved. Not everything was approved, but we can still provide financially the equipment that was approved and take advantage of the reimbursement funding from the state.
So, to be clear, there were some things that were not approved for the grant.
Correct.
Are we purchasing that anyways, if it's a need?
Well, let's determine that need too, because not everything is always a need. Some things they'd be nice to have.
That's
So,
what I was gonna ask, is it something that wasn't a need, could we maybe potentially try to apply next year when the percentage is lower
absolutely.
for those things?
And we will apply again, whether it's this or other stuff, we will apply again, because it just makes good sense to take advantage of the grant funding.
And I saw this was vocation, so this was before my time, is this at Lexington?
No,
Oh,
this would be
yeah,
for our
yeah.
vocational
Oh, okay.
programs here, so we did this a few years ago for our business programs in the building and bought all new computers, as an example. So, it's not the first time, and it won't be the last time.
But it's a great resource if and when we start thinking about expanding vocational opportunities on campus for kiddos. It's 3-to-1
Yeah,
funding for
no, that's awesome, yeah.
some pretty, I mean, you talk about a CNC machine, you're looking at $30,000.
Yeah.
Well, 7,500 sounds a lot more.
Appealing.
Okay, any other questions? questions? At this point, I need a motion to approve the revised expenditure for the enhancement grant.
Brian, sorry, I just
Okay.
have one more question.
Yep.
So, the three that aren't eligible, are we voting to still purchase those with this?
No, not at this point.
Okay, thank you.
So moved.
Okay, thank you.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. Okay, next up, we have the 2023-24 district assessment plan.
Dr. McLean's gonna talk to you about that.
Good evening, everyone. McLaughlin referenced our CSIP. One of our CSIP action items to meet, one of our SMART goals was to prepare a district assessment plan. So that's what we have for you to consider this evening. Basically, purpose of this assessment plan is to ensure a systematic approach to assessment within the district. It'll help us outline what data is available and how data can be used to help drive instruction and better inform our decision making in regards to curriculum, instruction, and program. So this will outline our goal, SMART goal number 1, action step letter D, in the teaching, learning, and student success academic achievement focus area.
And I'm correct in understanding that the majority of these assessments are new to the district.
The majority of them haven't been done. It's things like the map. It's just put into that assessment plan, but the new ones,
The I-ready,
that is new, and that's aligned with what the state has pushed through.
that's what I mean,
Yes.
new to a lot of the teachers here, like
Yes.
they're learning it, yeah.
That is correct.
So that's, I think that goes to say kudos to all of the teachers and administrators that are taking this on top of just providing the education that they do provide. They've had to learn a lot of new things this year, so. But I think it's great. I think we're headed in the right direction for sure. But it's a lot.
I would agree, and taking that, I mean, we just talked about benchmarking our board goals. And you've got September, January, and May benchmarking. It's a tremendous opportunity for teachers to use data to derive their instructional decisions. Keep us posted on how that I-ready's going, would you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Interested in teacher feedback.
Are all of these assessments given electronically?
The majority of these are, but this even references things like ACP, which we still give. Anything that basically the board says we would like these aligned and given in these time frames, then it's the expectation of the staff to administer those because it's been supported by the board versus just being a building assessment. So the majority of these I-ready type components are digital. That data piece, we're gonna have even additional support back from RPDC consultants. The I-ready team that we made the purchase with will come back and give us training on how to read that data. Also, this year we've had Tia Saxton as our instructional technology coach, and she's been very valuable to working with our teachers directly on how to give that assessment, and then we'll start breaking down that data as well. So the online piece makes it more user-friendly, but it also makes it more cumbersome. Thankfully, the last couple of years, getting more up to speed with one-to-one ratios and with our student devices, has helped kind of pave the way for this. And we've done some other benchmark assessments in the past, and it made it really easy to go from that to this.
So, I'm just taking like kindergarten, for example. So is Tia working with those students on how to navigate a computer in a standardized test or?
Great point. So math testing usually starts at 3rd grade. So our kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade students and staff have not given this type of assessment. So we have prepared our teachers with training starting in August on how to give this piece. We kind of rallied the troops using our title teachers. We had a big meeting last week to kind of prepare for this because the kindergarten and the 1st grade, this week has been 3rd grade through 8th grade. We've kind of given ourselves a little more time to get them up to speed so they can do practice type of steps and materials in the classroom. So the teachers have materials in their possession that they can kind of work with the students on how to log into the system using our Clever, our single sign-on. So there's been support to help our teachers, to help our students with this. And we expect some growing pains, but it does, from the other districts that we've talked to that have been doing this for years, it gets better as you go through it. It really starts with getting our teachers comfortable teaching it, and then the students adapt pretty quick as well. So good concern.
Valid.
Valid concern.
Yeah, and it's interesting, the kids adapt so much easier than the
Impressed with that. Good luck training me. You'd have better luck training a kindergarten.
I like seeing a consistency for K-5, that everyone's doing the same thing, because that's going to just be.
That's a big part of this plan, and having it board approved. It's kind of like the board saying you're doing this whole alignment, and you don't get opt out of it, it's in the approved plan.
Please let teachers and administrators know we appreciate the work that they are putting into it.
Absolutely.
And you as well, into learning all of this, so.
Any other questions? Point? If not, I need a motion to approve the 2023-24 district assessment plan.
So moved.
All in favor? Thank you. Okay, next we have the 2023-24 transportation routes and time schedules.
Dr. Fink.
All right, yeah, back to bus routes. So what you have there is route stops and times for formal approval. We're required every year to formally approve bus routes. So this offers you stops, stop times, as well as a map for each of those routes too. So you'll notice a couple of them pushing that 75 minutes. So we're keeping,
I saw that
keeping
one.
a close eye on that, especially one of those like bus two, there's like just a complete outlier on the stop that just had to be on for some bus, so it's that one. So if you take that out, the one kid out that has to ride a long time, it's not terrible, but, so I'm in communication with them regularly on those routes, and just making sure we're not over where we are, how can we change to get better. So,
On that one, Roger, is there any way for that route, because they're the first picked up and the last dropped off on that route too, is there any way that we can get them dropped off first, or so they're not bookending it?
So, I mean, yes, you could, but then that puts the others all on longer. Generally, and that one's a little different because it is so far out there, but generally, your last one off, or your first one on, ends up being your last one off, because you go to the furthest point and start to work your way back
Right.
in. I'll do some checking with them on that one, just because, we wouldn't switch the whole route, but is it closer to another one, or could there be some arrangements made, for that one? So, 'cause that was a long time.
Yeah, it stinks to be the first one
I
off.
know.
My wife experienced that, I think. She was in school.
Yeah, I would just see if any of those that, if they're the first picked up, if they could also be the first dropped off. Just if it's a possibility.
Sure.
I didn't notice really any others, but, maybe on bus
Definitely
7 too, but,
That stinks both ways.
well, yeah, I mean, that kid's under school care for 11 hours.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yes, it is.
So, thanks, Roger.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions on the bus routes? If not, I need a motion to approve the transportation routes and time schedules.
Make a motion to approve routes and times as presented.
Could I have a second, please? All in favor? Thank you. Next up is our change order number 17.
We had discussed this briefly, past. This was for the milling on the high school parking lot that had to be done, so they had called out for put some asphalt over the chip and seal, which that chip and seal layer was not good, so we paid a little extra and did it right. Got that top thing in with all stuff. Change order for $43,482.
Any other questions about that?
Is this materials and labor?
Yeah, that's total.
Just
Normally milling, they just mill off the top. I'm assuming they probably kept the mill. I mean, it's their machine,
The
you know.
more you mill, the more you have to put back. So if
Oh,
we
yeah, I
assumed
understand.
it was in
Yeah.
good condition, and it wasn't, they milled
Yeah.
more, we have to replace more.
Well, it may have just been a situation where they had 2 inches planned to go over the top of what was there, and then they still put 2 inches on it, but they just took that top layer of chip and seal off. So instead of, you know, the final grade wasn't as much. I mean, I guess it would have been different up around the curves and stuff, but anywhere you didn't have a curve, it just is what it is.
I think they just took the chip and seal off and then made up the difference in what that chip and seal was.
So they did, they added an inch to it, so maybe it is material then.
But the cost is all in for any additional material.
So yes, that was total cost, but good point, yeah, it took off more than expected, so they had to add more.
Seems reasonable.
Yep, I think that's.
It was a pretty good chunk of the lot too, it was all out in the center. Good chunk.
I appreciate them
Yeah.
coming forward instead of,
Yeah.
I think you said that when you read about it. So just doing it.
Yeah, it's, we've got big contractors that point out stuff like that.
Yeah.
Cause they were under a schedule crunch too.
Okay, any other questions? If not, I need a motion to approve the change order number 17 with Excel Contract Constructor, excuse me.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. Next up, we have an out-of-state student travel request.
So 2 requests this month, one of which for DECA, to New York City, and the other one FBLA, to a conference in Atlanta. So both great experiences for those groups.
Motion to approve.
All in favor? Thank you. And at this point, I need a motion to conduct a closed executive session, including any record or vote at the next scheduled meeting pursuant to statutes contained in chapter 16.021 RSMO.
So second.
Roll call.
Aye.
And I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.